Okay, welcome everyone. Welcome to our council meeting number 21 on Wednesday, March 29th, here in council chambers at 6:30 p.m. It's very rainy out there. Yesterday felt like spring, not so sure about today. Colleagues, we're just here for two items this evening, but before we get to the agenda, I'll invite us, a member of council to read the land acknowledgement, please. Okay. Go ahead, Councillor Barkley.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. The municipality of North Grenville acknowledges that the municipality operates on the unceded and unsurrendered territory of the Anishinaabeg. We honor the historic relationship of the Haudenosaunee and the Huron-Wendat peoples to this land. We recognize all First Nations, Métis, and Inuit who now call North Grenville their home. We respect and support the need for cultivating a strong relationship with all Indigenous peoples, and we look forward to continuing this conversation and fostering the path towards reconciliation.
Thank you. Before I begin and ask for a mover and a seconder for the agenda, I just want to thank members of our community for their patience. I know the lights at 43 and 44 have been out quite a bit over the last few days. There appears to be some technical challenges. Ms. Dunlop, do you have a sense of when those may be resolved, or perhaps they've been fully resolved at this stage?
The county are continuing to have problems with it. I know that some of the connections were underwater, so they can't wait for a roundabout. But yes, they're currently working on it, and hopefully we'll have a solution within the next 24 hours because they have been out at least 3 or 4 times in the last week.
Okay. So if anyone isn't clear, right, when traffic lights are out, you have to treat it like a 4-way stop. I know it's a very big intersection, so it's I've seen a lot of people approach it with tentativeness, and I know people are doing their best. So cross our fingers that gets resolved sooner rather than later. And I also just wanted to let people know that with the granting of the tender for the 4322 roundabout, that construction will start within a few weeks. So Kavanaugh, I think it's Kavanaugh Construction, secured the tender. So you will see some construction in that area in short order. Of course, the commitment on the part of the counties, they're the lead governing agency. We're a partner to the project, but it's being led by the counties. Of course, the commitment is we have to keep traffic moving at that very crucial intersection. So it will be a bit of a slow process, just so we don't create any massive disruptions for folks. And at this point, from what I understand, if all goes well, construction will finish later this fall. So that's what we're working with. So I'll move on, colleagues. Just 2 items on the agenda this evening. So looking for a mover and a seconder for the council agenda of March 29th, 2023 to be approved as presented. Councillor O'Sullivan, Councillor Wilson, thank you. Any comments or questions on the agenda, colleagues? Seeing none, I will call the question. All in favor? Good. Okay. So there's nothing under presentations or delegations. I did advise a member of the public, Ms. Godwin, who's here tonight, that if she does have questions in regards to the Y presentation, we're absolutely happy to answer them when we get to that section of the report. And certainly it's my expectation that tonight is information gathering, not a decision when we come to that particular section. So just noting that while we don't have presentations or delegations this evening, certainly, Ms. Godwin, you're more than welcome, certainly to come on down for the section of the report on the Y. So with that, we'll go to the Code of Conduct complaint. There is a recommendation here from the Integrity Commissioner, Mr. Tony Fleming. He conducted the investigation. He's provided some recommendations as per his report. Council colleagues, I trust that you've been able to review those recommendations. And really this evening, our job is to receive the report and potentially adopt the recommendations made by the Integrity Commissioner if you agree. We can certainly do that in one motion if I have a mover and a seconder, or we can split them up. So looking to council colleagues for your appetite. Councillor O'Sullivan? You wish to
I
move
wish
both?
to move both.
Okay. And then I'll look for a seconder then. Councillor Barkley, thank you. And I apologize, my laptop won't let me get back in. So we have the recommendations, and certainly I know Ms. Wilson has been advised of those and has asked to potentially speak later in this meeting to, in fact, respond to the recommendations as presented by Mr. Fleming. So we've got a mover and a seconder. I don't see any comments or questions. So with that in mind, I'll call the vote. All in favor, please. Good. Thank you. So that motion carries. So thank you for that, colleagues. And I want to thank Mr. Tony Fleming for his work. He has been our Integrity Commissioner for a number of years now, and I appreciate the fact that he took this matter seriously and conducted the investigation in a fairly timely manner, recognizing there was certainly some material and information to get through. I just want to, Ms. Janot, we're hearing that the meeting isn't being live streamed. Is that possible?
So it's not on YouTube. It is on our website, and we will update or upload it to YouTube after.
Okay. Okay. So I just have a member of the public saying she can't stream it, but you're confident it's streaming on our website right now?
Yes, if you go to northgrenville.ca,
Okay.
it is there.
northgrenville.ca. Okay. All right, so we'll move on. There's nothing under planning and development. There's nothing under public works. And there is something fairly substantial under Parks, Rec, and Culture, and that is the YMCA of Eastern Ontario draft MOU. Because we were meeting tonight anyway, in advance of a scheduled delegation from Mr. Rob Adams, who is CEO of the Y of Eastern Ontario, that's coming next Tuesday, we thought we could use this meeting this evening to gather information, hear from members of the public, so that we're certainly ready next week for a more fulsome conversation if required. So with that, the recommendation, Council, that has been prepared is that we approve the attached MOU, but I think more to the point, we just wanted an opportunity to invite any of us to ask questions and to hear from staff on how this MOU has come to pass. I understand we've already had an MOU in place with the YMCA for several years, and based on some of that success, I think and some experiences of other municipalities who've gone down this path with their aquatics facility, there was certainly an appetite to see if we could strike a similar arrangement. Mr. Guy or Ms. Hurlbert, is there anything else you'd like to add about context for this particular decision? Okay. So, council colleagues, anything that you would like to ask based upon questions you've been fielding or discussions? Councillor Barkley?
Just for clarification, we're not addressing the recommendation tonight that's in our agenda?
Certainly, we have the proposed recommendation, but certainly I think the idea this evening, certainly my intention for having this on the agenda this evening was to do more information gathering, and I would humbly suggest that we wait until we hear from Mr. Rob Adams next week before we make a final decision. This was really an opportunity to look specifically at the MOU and see if there was anything that we thought was missing or questions that we could answer, certainly, or ensure were gathered before the meeting next Tuesday when Mr. Adams will be here.
So we won't be getting the report tonight?
The report is posted. Mr. Guy, Ms. Hurlbert, would you like to make a brief presentation on the report? Perfect.
Yes, I'm happy to do so. Thank you, Your Worship. I'm pleased to be here this evening to share information.
And Ms. Hurlbert, you're hard to hear, so just shift your mic ever so slightly and it'll make a difference.
Sorry.
There you
we go. Pleased to be here this evening to share information and answer questions regarding the proposed expanded partnership with the YMCA of Eastern Ontario. We have, as you mentioned, been partnered with the YMCA since 2019, operating our summer camp programming. These camps have been well received by the community and fill a need for school-aged summer childcare. The camps also continue to provide summer employment for local youth. The YMCA brings significant experience and management expertise to respond to changing needs of children and families and evolving government requirements in childcare programming. And they also offer a subsidy program for families who have financial barriers. And I think this is something that we need to talk more about and let the community know more about, because it's a question that we receive often that people may not be aware of. But they do have a very strong subsidy program that we did not offer when we had the camps. So with camp management fully transitioned to the partnership model, we've been able to refocus staff time to increase community development and event support. This has resulted in the strengthening of relationships with local organizations such as the Kemptville Youth Center, as well as community associations and service clubs. We were able to provide hands-on support preparing for events such as Busker Fest, Canada Day, the International Plowing Match, and the Santa Claus Parade, among others. More staff time was also available to dedicate to municipally led activities such as our 2 very successful years in the Participation Challenge and the first North Grenville Youth Summit. These efforts have demonstrated positive outcomes for the community, and we have goals to grow those efforts to support not-for-profits in organizational development, local volunteerism, especially rebounding back after COVID-19, and we're hearing a lot that there are struggles in recruitment of volunteers and managing and maintaining volunteers, and that's an area where we can help to support the community to be stronger, and it will be beneficial sort of across the board for everyone if we can put some effort there, but we do have to have some resources to do that, and it is time-consuming work. So with all that in mind, it's recommended that the partnership with the YMCA be expanded to include management of aquatics programming at the outdoor pool, as well as to address some other year-round community programming gaps for underserved demographics such as seniors and youth. The MOU does include a few hours a week as a starting point for them to be able to offer additional community programming. We have been advertising for recruitment for the aquatic staff, and we have reached out to those applicants to seek their permission in sharing their applications with the YMCA should this partnership be approved. And the YMCA will be hiring from the same pool of applicants. They don't bring staffing beyond management level into the community. They are hiring local youth for these jobs. They will be managing registration through the online registration portal. We will assist the community in finding program information and connecting with the YMCA service staff. We'll have a connection through our website, but we'll also be doing communications campaigns and just doing customer service day-to-day, answering phones and emails and messages as they come in. We will continue to be responsible for facility maintenance, and our team will work closely with the Y staff to ensure smooth operation as they do every year with the staff that have worked for Parks and Rec. The municipality and the YMCA will review the partnership after this programming season and address any changes that might be necessary. They will, on an ongoing basis, be looking for efficiencies, for ways to improve how we offer services that are in line with current trends, and as the trends change, they'll be keeping up and keeping us up to date with those things. We will consider a longer-term partnership contract if it's deemed to be in the best interest of both parties, keeping in mind that we will at any time have an opportunity annually to review whether it's working for us and whether we should continue to be partnered for the operation of the pool. The Department of Parks and Recreation and Culture will provide oversight to ensure the partner organization adheres to all relevant regulatory requirements, as well as the goals of the municipality with regards to this important community program. So we will every year approve the programming, pricing, the staffing, and related rates. We'll make sure that we are paying close attention to those details as they are important to the municipality as well as to our residents. So the financial impact is outlined in the report. I will just state that in new monies, we are looking at $25,500 in the 2023 budget, which was included at budget time. The municipality already subsidizes pool programming in that the facility does operate at a loss annually, and the difference is made up for in the tax base. So moving to the Y partnership model, that is still the case. It is in council's hands to determine to what level they would subsidize that program on an ongoing basis and reviewed annually at budget time. So that maintains our interest in program prices, rates that staff are being paid and that sort of thing. With all of this in mind, an expanded partnership with the YMCA of Eastern Ontario is supported by the strategic plan and the Parks, Recreation and Culture Master Plan. This expansion will allow the department to focus on more community-driven initiatives, and the Department of Parks, Recreation and Culture recommends endorsement of the draft Memorandum of Understanding. We are open to hearing questions from council and members of the public, and want to make sure that the MOU as drafted, or if it needs amending before next week, reflects the interests of everyone. Thank
Okay,
you.
great, thank you. And just to clarify, and then I'll turn it to council colleagues, Deputy Mayor, Councillor Barclay, you wish to speak? Do you have your hand up? Okay, I am. Okay, excellent. So the fee structure as it exists right now, right, is what will be applied this summer, is that correct?
Yes, based on the terms of the MOU as it's drafted, we intend to maintain the same fees as we did in 2022.
Okay. And the hours, right, would be similar, the same?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to look for if there's improvements that can be made, but I think the schedule overall would be quite similar to last year. But if there's opportunities to, for instance, reintroduce Aquafit or Aqua Zumba, which hasn't come back since COVID, we look forward to doing so. If there's opportunities to, based on available staffing, which I would note, we have seen a strong application base. There's a good number of applications coming in for aquatics, which is quite different from the colleagues I've spoken to in the region, and certainly quite different from what the YMCA in Brockville is experiencing as well. There is a Canada-wide shortage of aquatic staff due to the delay in training caused by COVID. So I think we're in a good staffing position to be able to support the programming to at least the level of last year, but hopefully more.
Okay, great. I'll leave it there, and if there's any other questions I have, I'll come back. So, Councillor Barclay, go ahead.
Thank you, Ms. Herbert, for the background information. In years past, we've made up the difference between revenues, fees charged by users, and when it comes to staffing costs. Can you tell me approximately what that would have been, the shortfall between what it costs to staff the pool versus the revenue that we generate at the door?
Yes, in 2022, the difference between revenues and the staffing expenses was approximately $30,000.
30. And that's been taken into account this year's budget. We will continue to make up that shortfall, plus these additional costs.
That's right. The MOU identifies that the municipality would be responsible for the shortfall.
Okay.
And we did budget for it, yes.
Yeah. What's the total? Does the pool have its own segmented budget? I mean, what's the budget for the pool, running the pool, beyond staffing costs, maintenance, and that kind of stuff?
I'm going to defer that to the director.
Yeah. Okay.
Through you, Your Worship, to Deputy Mayor Barclay. It varies from year to year, but I would say the total is anywhere between $100,000 and $110,000 per year to run the pool. That includes, the maintenance costs, operating costs, staffing, whatnot, supplies.
All the maintenance costs are still ours.
Correct.
Yeah.
We will still be maintaining the pool with our facility staff from a maintenance point of view.
Great. Thank you.
And I know there was a question about retention of these facilities and whether or not the municipality was handing them over. I think we want to be abundantly clear that these remain our facilities. We have no intention of giving them to a not-for-profit entity. They are ours. We take a lot of pride in them. Riverside Park is, the improvements to Riverside are being solely funded by the municipality, with every intention of that park remaining public space. And certainly the pool house and the pool are part of the Riverside Park properties. So it's certainly something that is ours and will remain ours. That is my understanding, and I think our intention. So, but the question was asked about whether or not the pool was being provided to the Y, or was there a transfer of ownership? So I obviously would have been shocked had that been the case, but clearly that's not the case. This is simply to manage programming. Okay. Other questions, colleagues? Councillor Wilson? And I apologize. And then Councillor Sullivan. Councillor Wilson, go ahead.
Oh, thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor, to the recreation staff here. Because the Y, and not knowing the process, how kids get their lifeguarding skills through Red Cross or through the Y, if some of the, like, in order to be hired through this program, what qualifications do they have to have? Do they have to have Red Cross, or is it a separate one that the Y is going to require? So are some of the kids that have already worked for us in the past, are they going to have to go and do any retraining to be part of the Y system?
So the requirements for lifeguards to work in Ontario are set out by regulation by the province. The YMCA has a different swim lesson. They have their own brand of swim lessons, which is not the same as the certifications required to be a lifeguard. Those certifications are still Life Saving Society program, and that's across the board. But the Y brand of swim lessons, they require an instructor training. So they'll be doing a transition that will be provided as part of their training package. It'll be paid training. And it won't cost the staff anything to participate. So that is part of the transition that will be made.
Thank you, that's helpful.
And current applicants, local applicants, wouldn't be disqualified from consideration because they wouldn't have that particular instructor training?
No, they wouldn't. In fact, there will be applicants who maybe have the opportunity to take some additional training. The reality is, as I said, there is a shortage in aquatic staff. So right now, it makes a lot of sense to invest in the staff wherever we can to make sure that we have enough qualified applicants to offer a fulsome program.
Okay. Ms. Bilsing, you had a follow-up? Councillor Wilson?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to recreation. So in essence, that is a positive for our students or whoever is going to work in our community, because those skills after they're trained through the Y can be transferred in the future if they're in another part of the country and being able to work through another Y. Correct?
Yes, there are definitely, and I've heard from some of the staff we've had work in the camps, there's definitely opportunities for working in other Ys, getting transferred. So if they go off to university, and especially aquatic staff, if they go off to university and are in a community where there's a Y, it definitely helps that they've had Y experience and can open doors for them, or it can be a direct transfer if it's within the same Y region. So it's definitely, I see that as a positive. Yeah.
Okay, I'll go over to Councillor O'Sullivan, and then I'll recognize Councillor Strakian. Thank you.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor, to Ms. Hurlbert. Having the Y manage the pool now, will there be any enhancements of programs that are there? Like, I think we were previously able to certify students for Bronze Cross or a certain level, but I just don't know is it going to increase the scope of what they can be trained for and certified for?
So for sure, we'll continue to offer the bronze level trainings, the bronze medallion, the bronze cross, the bronze star. Ideally, we'll have opportunities to train staff all the way through their lifeguard training, their instructor training, or at the very least, be able to offer opportunities to have staff through the year visit the Y in Brockville and have training opportunities there. So those are part of the program planning. That's kind of the next step, but those are things that we've already talked about to some level and are hoping to build on.
Okay, thank you very much. I think it's a win-win situation from all the information that I've gathered, and I want to thank you and Director Guy for all the background legwork, because I'm sure it doesn't get to this level or to this point without a lot of back and forth conversations and due diligence, so thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Strachan, please.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. I have two questions. One is probably a very straightforward one. A little one. The second one requires a little bit more discussion, I think. The first one is just jumping off of what Councillor Wilson has asked regarding the certification process and the WISE brand of lessons and how they go about doing that. What's the impact on kids who are currently taking lessons to have a different system in place? Like, is there a conversion from one level to the next? Is it a straightforward A to B, or will they require some assistance in order to figure out what level their kid should be enrolled at?
So typically what happens in when you change programs, and we've done it before when we changed from Red Cross to Life Saving Society, or in the other direction at different points over the years we've gone. There are conversion charts, so we'll have a conversion chart available that does the best conversion to guide people in finding the right level. The reality is, a lot of years I spend a lot of time on the telephone reminding people where their kids were at and giving them advice on where they should go next in the months leading up to registration for swim lessons. And we'll still continue to do that as people are getting ready for registration this year.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. And the second question is, I guess, why the why? Why YMCA? Have other models been explored? What is the advantage to going with them over hiring our own, training our own staff, bringing in, I don't know what another option would be, but what are the options that were explored to get you to this point to say the Y is the best option for us?
So the alternative could be to hire additional staff for the Department of Parks and Rec. It's only slightly different than me continuing to do it in the sense that it's one person, right? So you've got to maintain that person, and you've got to have their training and have them stay up to date on trends and that sort of thing. There's all sorts of things that could interrupt that person's employment. So it's got its ups and downs, its pros and cons for sure. The reality is it also would cost more. So while we'd have another body in-house, there are a lot more expenses, including the financial piece of just the cost between the Y and a salary of an additional body. It is an option, but what the Y brings that a person doesn't, or another staff member doesn't, is they're a team. They've got a team of staff. If there's an interruption in one person, they've got more people on the team lined up to fill the gap immediately. There's no long wait as we go through hiring and recruiting and training. It's an immediate gap filled. They also are, through the year, I mean, they've got indoor pool facilities in Brockville and Kingston. Through the year, they're maintaining their information on trends, their training. They're in it all the time. The same with the camps. That's what we experienced. They're in childcare all year round. They're on top of all of the changing regulations, the changing trends. They can respond more quickly. They can be more effective. And that's really what we're looking for, is that ability to respond, to keep up, and to keep our programming the best that it can be for the community.
So in essence, you're getting a much bigger package than just one individual and being able to train that. And I think that perhaps to expand on what you said, the other point to draw attention to is that we're not simply talking about 2 months worth of programming, right? It's the lead up to it, it's the follow up, it's what you do in the off season to make the next season better and stronger, if that makes sense. Yeah?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. And just in terms of that commitment to hiring local, which I think we all support, what was your observation? I know I had a daughter who happened to be in a Y program, and she was served well by local staff. So they, I think for the most part, were from North Grenville. I'm not suggesting that perhaps there weren't others from further afield, but my recollection was they were local. So what's your sense of our capacity to ensure that where there is local, we would hire locals, right? To make sure that, obviously, like, this is a small community, families tend to know each other. I think we're very proud of some of our local youth, and we wouldn't want them to be overlooked because a lifeguard in Brockville has year-round experience, right, and perhaps brings more years to the table, whereas some of our local staff only have that opportunity to work seasonally. So is there a way, and I will ask Mr. Adams this next week, but is that that sort of commitment or goodwill, right, codified in the MRU, or is there a way to ensure that, you know, obviously they honor our wishes around that hiring and retention of local staff?
I'm sure we can look at the wording in the MOU to identify that as a priority for North Grenville Council. I think it's worth noting that the local students are the ones whose hearts are in it. They've grown up in this pool, right? They've trained in this pool. They love their hometown pool. They've been on the Bluefin swim team, right? Like, this is where their heart is. They're the best staff to be at the pool, without question. And the YMCA is, you know, on the same page on that front. It's also keeping in mind the rates that are paid to the lifeguards, not generally worthwhile for someone to drive from Brockville. There's no intention to bring staff from out of town beyond, as I say, the management level, which is really filling my role with regards to the pool, not filling the role of any of these youth. The staffing structure is expected to be the same. Titles might change, but the structure is the same, right? Where we call someone a pool supervisor, they might call them the team lead. But it's the same position, it's the same intention, and as I say, the best people to fill those roles are our local kids.
Okay, thanks. So also in terms of, we've had some questions about other municipalities investing, right, in the training of up-and-coming lifeguards, right? We know that certainly in this community, families bear the expense of getting them to Minto or wherever, maybe Brockville, in order to do some of that certification. It's certainly a conversation that I would be interested in having with the Y, is how do we, right, continue to create the conditions for local families to ensure that they have equal opportunity for training, right? So, because again, because we don't have a year-round pool here, the reality is people's training opportunities, certification opportunities may be a little more episodic, or they're clearly further afield. So I wonder if there is a way to contemplate how we equip, right, the sort of future labor pool, right, beyond those who are here now who have the certifications or some experience, so that we don't, down the road, right, lose an opportunity to invest in local staff.
Agreed, and that's an ongoing priority of the Y themselves for their existing programming, and it will translate to prioritizing how we can do that in North Grenville to serve North Grenville residents and to help our young people achieve their certifications. So we'll make sure that's a priority in conversation.
And maybe I think we're happy to ask this question of Mr. Adams next week, but you know, I don't know if Brockville and North Grenville are like if it's an apples to apples comparison, right? Because Brockville being a more urban center, even though we're really very close to their population, right? So Brockville's about 20, we're 18, so I fully expect we'll surpass Brockville before too long. But that being said, even the compensation structure or the way that other municipalities outside of Brockville may be looking to attract and retain local staff, I think that's still worth looking at. So we don't default to sort of how Brockville is doing things, where they may have infrastructure that creates the conditions, you know, for certain things to happen, whereas in our community it is a little bit different, or maybe a lot different. So what gives me some assurance is we have full control over this MOU, and if at some point we thought, no, like we're not on the same page with the YMCA, this is a annual MOU, so we can absolutely monitor the degree to which it's working for us, right? So, and certainly at any point, we could opt out of that relationship if it's not productive. I certainly recognize, I think there's significant value in going down this road, but I also am happy to learn and have confirmed that this is we're sort of testing sort of the next phase of this relationship, and it sounds like there's some capacity to ensure that what we need out of this partnership we can certainly get, and if we can't get it, then we look elsewhere. Okay. So yes, Councillor Strachan, go ahead.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I guess to add to what the comment that you just made, I have a question regarding the rates of pay. So currently, we have set rates that we pay for supervisors or instructors, and the intent right now is that the Y would maintain that same rate of pay. And if they would choose to change it, either in whatever direction, hopefully it would only go up, that they would have to come back to the municipality to negotiate any changes for pay for aquatic staff? Is that correct?
Yes, we would have to approve any change to that. And there's absolutely no chance of them paying less. But I agree. I hope that there's opportunity for more.
Okay, excellent. And one other question, because it was mentioned already, the Bluefin swim team is still going to stay as part of the aquatics program. Is that for sure?
Absolutely. Okay. It is for sure. The Bluefin swim team will be maintained as an aquatics program. It's one of our best programs, and I know most loved by the community.
I agree. Thank you.
Okay, great. So council colleagues, as I've said, Mr. Adams is coming next week. So this was just this was an opportunity rather to dig down a little further. So if you had lingering questions, we can make sure that Mr. Adams is properly prepared. And if there were any adjustments to the MOU, they could be contemplated before next Tuesday. So anything else at this stage? Yeah. So we'll invite members of the public while we're here to come on down, and if they have questions, fire away. Yep. You just have to go to the mic. Yeah. Thanks. Oh, and before Ms. Godwin, you speak, what I find, feel free to have a seat, what I find interesting about all of these conversations, and we're having them on the arena side too, is, we heavily subsidize our recreational facilities. That's the truth of it. I don't know if anything is fully cost recovery. So, the investment we make in these facilities obviously is pretty crucial to how we create access. So, I think we have every expectation that we're subsidizing this aquatics facility for many years to come, because otherwise you would never be able to create, I think, the kind of access we all hope for in this community. And that is equally true on the arena side. So it's just struck me that often, even, I have 2 kids in hockey, some know, and I think we don't always even understand the extent to which we're subsidizing that facility. So it's part of what you do as a municipality is make sure that these facilities are priced at a range that certainly doesn't always serve everyone, but certainly that is the hope. And I was heartened to hear that the Y subsidy program is still in existence and will be applied here too. But over to you, Ms. Godwin. Just turn on your mic so your comments can be recorded, because the meeting's being live streamed.
Thank you, Mayor Peckford. So this may in fact sound more like a delegation, so I apologize. Although I'm a lawyer, I haven't done this before, so I'm learning as I go. My name is Sarah Godwin. I am a longtime resident of North Grenville, long time. The Kempfel Pool is an incredibly important part of my life. I grew up swimming in the pool, lessons in the pool in the morning, public swimming in the afternoon, swim team, and then family swim in the evening for green hair at the end of the summer. I then worked at the pool for several years, eventually serving as pool supervisor. My kids took lessons there. They continued to take lessons there, my youngest. And 2 of my children work at the pool, so that's my claim of any conflict of interest. I swim at the pool on a regular basis as much as I possibly can. I love the Kempfel Pool. So the decision to contract out via essentially a sole source contract, the management of the aquatics program to the Y for a minimum amount of $25,500 troubles me. First, superficially, not superficially, at first it's the ongoing lack of publicity about the decision and its underpinnings. So this budget line of $25,500 or $25,000 was apparently thought of much earlier than just now, yet this is the first time we're hearing about it. And the first time I'm hearing about it is through one of my kids happening to get an email saying that it was going to the Y, and another key community member who heard through her own contacts at the Brockville Y that this was going to happen. So that is a concern in terms of transparency. I was concerned about the stock talking points that were issued in the press release, which did not really address the questions raised. And the discussion of the contract today, when we were told April 4th. So these are things, I'm not attributing malfeasance or maliciousness. It's just things to bear in mind when community input is important. I certainly hope that this is not a quote-unquote done deal, despite the added line in the budget and applicants' resumes having been shared with the YMCA and the Brockville YMCA staff believing it to be a done deal. So my hope is that there is still room for some movement here and some understanding about the impacts that this will have on the community. I have seen several reasons for this contract. So the pre-council report memo, the draft memo that I saw, in the analysis section said that contracting out of pool management will allow municipal staff to focus time to increase community development and event support. So that actually has occurred already by the contracting out of the daycare. So we're looking at an increase in that. Yet some of the events that were listed, for instance, the International Plowing Match, et cetera, don't happen in the summer or are handled equally by the Business Improvement Agency, the BIA authority in Kemptville. And again, why not hire staff to help with those community development initiatives on temporary contracts, for instance, rather than contracting out the pool? Why one and not the other? The draft, no, it wasn't a draft memo, the memo in support of this said that expanding the partnership with the YMCA to include management of aquatics programming at the outdoor pool, as well as to address other year-round community programming gaps, will address gaps for underserved demographics such as seniors and youth. So the gap, in fact, seems to be in the programming referenced is with the underserved demographics. It's not really in the pool. We're talking about a summer pool that is pretty darn full. I can think in the schedule, I have it virtually memorized. There may be a little bit of time on the weekend mornings or on the weekend evenings. It is otherwise fully utilized. I haven't seen any gaps identified in the aquatics programming with perhaps the issue of Zumba, but that's not necessarily a matter of management expertise, it's bringing in somebody who can do the aqua Zumba. Interestingly, the MOU or the draft MOU specifies that the YMCA is to determine if there are gaps. So we don't know if there are gaps. That's what they will determine, and it may in fact be that there are none. In the press release that was issued March 24th, I believe, was suggested that this move will bring new levels of professional expertise and access to highly trained and seasoned management and expertise. And again, there's been no identification of what professional expertise has been lacking or why at this community resource. Any concerns that I've been made aware of in the past have to do with COVID, which the Y certainly can't avoid, or poor salary, so difficult to get staff back. There's not even a retention bonus if you come back year after year, and lack of training for the supervisor position. And that certainly doesn't take the Y at $25,000 to come in and rectify. Program subsidies for families to remove financial barriers is another reason that was identified. Have there been reports of financial barriers to accessing the pool? And again, the costs of the pool programming are unspecified. So I understand that Ms. Hurlbert has said, no, they will stay the same. There is nothing in the MOU that says that. It is not there. It is a very, I'm not a corporate lawyer, it is a very loose, undetailed document. And there's a lot of room for wiggling and maneuvering within there on either side before there would be a breach. If subsidies are required, why couldn't they be offered by the municipality? It was pointed out that there will be continued employment opportunities for local youth, along with new training and advancement opportunities. And I believe Ms. Hurlbert, sorry, Tammy, I'm used to just calling you by your first name, also spoke to that. Again, the MOU provides no protection for the employment of local youth. It's not in there at all. And if management is moved to the YMCA, de facto, there will be less advancement opportunities for our youth here. It doesn't require, the MOU does not require training opportunities for employees. In fact, the municipality will continue to be responsible for health and safety training. So the only training that's specified in that MOU is left to the municipality to handle, even though $25,000 is being passed off to the Y. While it's great that training may be provided to have these lifeguards and instructors also become Y instructors, that has to happen right about the crunch time of the school season, right? So all of that extra training, in addition to the regular health and safety training, et cetera, that has to happen for anybody coming to the pool, will be done at a time when students don't have the time. And I speak from experience. I've watched my daughter stress out, for instance, trying to get the qualifications to be able to teach the Bronze Medallion and Bronze Cross last year so that the pool could offer it. There's not a lot of time in their schedules to be doing that. There are, although it's nice to have assurances, or at least to be said that there's a minimum salary protections, it's certainly not anywhere in the MOU itself. There are no guarantees for those lifeguards who are, as Ms. Strackergen has already pointed out, underpaid, and again, with no retention increases. Adding in a third party who must receive payment can only reduce the amount of funds that are available to staff and their leadership opportunities. I believe the press release also mentioned a strong partnership with an established not-for-profit entity. And there was reference to creates the possibility of additional recreation amenities in the future. Again, this is pure speculation. It doesn't come from the MOU. There's nothing in the MOU about that. It's a hope. It's like some people on Facebook saying, oh, the Y is coming to run the pool. That means we're going to get an indoor pool. There is no guarantee of that, especially in the MOU. In addition to the other materials I saw, when I reviewed the MOU in particular, I identified quite a few gaps, some of which I've talked about, and other concerns. So right off the start, for instance, the recognition of the human rights protections, I'll tell you, is significantly under-inclusive. It's missing a lot of the protections, the important protections provided in the Ontario Human Rights Code, which then makes me question how much expertise is really being brought to this. Again, the required certifications, expertise, and experience required, or with which the Y must provide, are not set out. It just says experience and expertise. That's not identified or qualified anywhere. And there's no requirement for the Y to be transferring that knowledge elsewhere or onto staff. The number of hours of service to be provided has not been specified. Are we getting an hour a week? Are we getting 3 hours a week? What is the municipality getting for its buck, or $25,000 buck plus? Again, the parameters for staffing the pool have not been set out. The staffing structure is not set out in the MOU. There's no specification as to how many staff will be hired and under what conditions. There's no requirement, as I've said before, that local community members be given priority. That's not in the MOU, nor can it be inferred from the MOU. The length of the pool season is not specified. There's been a lot of work that's been brought from having the pool in sort of July, August, and now goes at least into June, and hopefully it can go extend into September, depending on staff availability. but that's not provided for in the MOU. Again, it is a very loose document. It is not something which I would have expected from a municipality in exchange for $25,000. There's no commitment to maintaining existing programs. And these programs need to be protected. Lessons, lane swim, family swim, public swim, and of course the swim team, Tammy, Go Bluefins Go. So none of that is specified in that agreement. I want to note that the YMCA offers a different badge structure than the Life Saving Society. Right? So we're currently with the Life Saving Society. Red Cross has gotten out of the aquatic safety, and Life Saving Society is the name of the game. The YMCA structure, to be frank, is not as good. First of all, apart from that, we're now asking parents to once again change the lesson structure for their kids. There's that. But I'm also told that the YMCA STAR program 5, 6, and 7 is not equivalent to the rookie badges. So preceding the Bronze Medallion, Bronze Cross, which are the precursor to getting your life-saving certification and becoming a lifeguard, the Life Saving Society inserted these rookie badges, which are sort of prepping students, prepping swimmers to become lifeguards. The YMCA 5, 6, and 7 is not equivalent. It focuses more on YMCA instructor teaching elements. There are many more pools that use the Life Saving Society program than the Y, right? So the swimmers that go through the Life Saving Society program, including the instructors and being set up that way, will have many more opportunities to use their certifications while, for instance, away at university, and then to come back to North Grenville with that training and experience. Having a Y certification is very limiting. We'll note that it's easy to go from the Life Saving Society over to the Y, but not vice versa. Along with that, local examiners are unlikely to get called upon now for those Bronze Cross and Bronze Medallion examinations. And that's been a nurtured relationship that offers ongoing unofficial training to the staff, come in, provide advanced tips to the classes on how to succeed in the exam. So that relationship is likely done. And there had been a plan with those examiners, or at least the one, to train the current bronze instructors on up to the examining course, so to further develop them. That had already been in place with our own community resources, not paying $25,000. In essence, and I think Ms. Hurlbert said it, the municipality is hiring a pool manager, right, for unspecified hours of management service, an unspecified commitment to hire lifeguards from the community, instructors, unspecified commitment about salary, and there's no guarantee that the cost of the programming won't increase. And once that contract is in place, it will be very, very difficult for the municipality to reclaim the service and offer it itself. The Y will have its hooks in, it will have developed its own expertise, and that expertise will not have transferred. So I asked that within the context of a small summer-only pool, what programs can the Y offer that we can't do ourselves? Why wouldn't it be more cost-effective to hire a local manager for 4 months who can share and develop that local expertise? I've seen no numbers, and I'm asking for transparency. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. You know, my initial reflection is that this is an MOU, not necessarily a legal agreement, but that being said, I think we could potentially ask for an addendum to the MOU or some strengthened language around priorities and mechanisms through which things like fee structure, commitments to local employment and retention, minimum salary protection, length of season are sort of more explicitly articulated. So certainly that's feedback we can give to Mr. Adams. So thank you very much. We appreciate all of the comments you've brought forward. I don't know the local examiner system very well, so it's definitely worth contemplating. But council colleagues, anything else before we move from this discussion? I don't know if our Parks and Rec staff have anything else to add at this stage. We certainly will take these comments into advisement. Yes, go ahead, Councillor Sullivan.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor, to Ms. Hurlbert. You mentioned earlier on that the Ontario legislation for who can be a lifeguard at a public pool such as this, there are standards to be met for the province. So is it appropriate to say that the Y training and the previous training that any of the lifeguards have will meet those standards?
Yes, that's correct. All of our staff must meet the requirements of the province, and those qualifications are checked by the health inspector before we can open the pool every season, and they do return to, check from time to time throughout the season as well.
Okay, thank you. And from experience, I think that programs and names of levels and et cetera have been changing over the years. When my children were young and taking lessons in Ottawa, I think over the course of their lessons, the names of the programs changed and the names of the levels changed with several times, actually, I think, from being with the Red Cross to another program. So, and they can swim okay now, but it's certainly very important to have consistency with the accreditation that's required to operate the pool safely and appropriately. Thank you.
Okay. The only other thing I would say, and it's not in direct response to Ms. Godwin or Sarah, but just for the awareness of the community, because Moose FM called about a week ago, is we did do a phase 1 feasibility study around the establishment of an indoor aquatics facility last spring. That report came to council in open session, and the recommendation at that time is that within the next 5 years, the municipality look at a phase 2 study and specifically look at this building as a possible site where an aquatic facility could be established as an extension to this building that we're in right now. That recommendation, again, was made in the spring in open session of council. And the reasons to identify this location, obviously, is there are potential operational efficiencies to be achieved, given that we operate 2 arenas. We don't own the building, but we own a mortgage on the building, and we do own the lands. So in this budget, as I said to Moose FM last week, there is also funds set aside to do a phase 2 feasibility on the potential establishment of an aquatics facility. That is that in no way presupposes a decision to establish the facility, but it allows us to get more information about whether or not a facility could be established and obviously what the financial picture would look like, where there may be provincial or federal grants that we could avail of, which would clearly be, I think, extremely important. But it's just to make members of the community aware, because I've seen the discussion online. Certainly this partnership with the Y in no way suggests that an indoor aquatics facility is coming. Quite the opposite. But that being said, we are entering into a phase 2 feasibility study just to make sure that we have all the information about what could be possible in terms of the establishment of an aquatics facility here. I know we have a very, very enthusiastic swimming community. We have a growing community. There are others out there, both on the developer side and certainly residents in the community have approached us multiple times over the last few years. And I think it's our responsibility at this stage to get all of the information. So 10 years from now, we don't say, oh my God, why didn't we pursue that earlier, when we knew that the kind of growth we're seeing in North Grenville is coming, and is now here. So with that in mind, Deputy Mayor, go ahead. Councillor Barclay.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and to Ms. Godwin, I'd like to thank you for your in-depth reflection on the memorandum of understanding. I'd just like to say, it's obvious that you and your family have got a huge investment in this pool, so I do appreciate you weighing in. By their nature, memorandums of understanding are just that. You know, it's a broad understanding. It doesn't contain the detail that you might find in a contract or an agreement. And I think a lot of the questions that you raised gives us an opportunity to put them to Mr. Adams when he comes next week, and I thank you for your contribution.
And to also potentially, in writing, establish some of those commitments. Councillor Trackitt.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. Knowing that Ms. Godwin was going to be here tonight, I held off on some of the structural comments of the MOU because I knew she had some very pertinent points to make. So thank you, Sarah, for being here. While this isn't contractual in the way that I think we want to focus on, it does set the tone for where we want to go in the future with the Y. It does indicate what we feel is important and what we don't feel is important. My own experience dealing with contractual documents and statements of requirements and so on, you know, if you say you want an all-terrain vehicle that can carry hundreds of pounds, you can easily get a donkey instead of a Humvee. So I think we have to strengthen the wording of what is in here. And so if we have no-fail items like pay, like hiring practices, program structures that we want to maintain, not to limit any growth, I think we can probably tease those out a little bit more. I know that they're in there, but they're you know, not explicitly stated, I think, as strongly as they could be. So I agree that stronger language is likely warranted. To one of the points that you made, Ms. Godwin, about you know, no guarantees that fees won't go up or that things won't change. No, there are no guarantees. The guarantees are right here at these tables, right? You really do, you have to put a certain amount of faith in council making those decisions, because any of the changes to what we currently expect would need to come back to us at the municipal level, and we would have to state that. I understand the wording isn't probably strong enough in there, and so I think if it's not clearly stated, then that's another example of where we can strengthen the wording. But that was certainly the intent, and that was, I believe, my understanding and the understanding of my council colleagues here as well. So absolutely, we can, I think that would make sense. One other point that I think I want to make, and this relates back to the subsidization piece. So whether or not there have been requests for subsidization for the pool programming, it is currently heavily subsidized by the municipality. The partnership with the Y also allowed, when we look at the summer camps, for a different pool of funding for subsidization. It wasn't an automatic subsidization, but it is something that's available there upon request. And I think mentioning that tonight, not just in light of the aquatics program, but in light of the summer camps program, because the comments have come across, is that they, you know, if residents feel that they could use some of that assistance, that is available there as well. So I think it's sort of a bigger picture approach as well as to what they have available to offer immediately and into the future. Thank you.
Okay, sounds good. So Mr. Adams will come next week. I think the only thing we haven't said tonight is I want to thank Tammy and Mark. I know certainly Tammy's put heart and soul into this pool over many, many years. And to some extent, I think we have to trust her guidance. Not to say in any way that, Ms. Godwin, some of your comments around not having assurances in the agreement aren't very reasonable observations. I think they are. But I know Ms. Hulbert has worked tirelessly to make the pool operation what it is today, and it has been a real success and has been embraced by so many. So with that in mind, you know, this in part was an operational decision to go down this road as that partnership with the Y was tested out. So while the funding allocation was made in the budget, absolutely staff were exploring the possibility of extending this partnership with the Y well before budget season. It's now just coming obviously to culmination through the approval of the MOU. But I want to thank Tammy because I know what it takes every summer to do this. And our hope is that at the end of the day, this partnership will be fruitful. I have seen the benefits of Ms. Hurlbert redirecting some of her energy since we passed over certainly summer camp programming over to the Y, and the strengthened relationships with a variety of community groups, particularly the youth center, but not only are evident in some of our internal discussions. So I feel optimistic that our Parks and Rec staff, particularly Ms. Hurlbert, are incredibly talented and have many different ways to use their energy. So if in fact we proceed with the MOU, I'm optimistic that there will be other benefits that perhaps aren't fully evident right now. But we're going to have another discussion. This is not about decisions. So thank you, Sarah, for coming. Really appreciate it. And look forward to the conversation next Tuesday. With that, we don't have any emergency or protective services updates. Councillor Strachan?
Sorry, Madam Mayor, I apologize to interrupt you. Do we need to approve a motion to direct staff to make any changes to this MOU, or because it's a draft, it's just implied that we'll be seeing these changes before the next meeting?
I think the notion is now that we would expect Mark and Tammy to renew a conversation with the Y just in terms of what can be better captured through an addendum to the MOU or language in the MOU so that we can have more reassurances and as a consequence assure the community. Yes, go ahead.
If I may, Madam Mayor, in regards to what we've heard this evening and some of the items listed in the MOU, Tammy and I have both, I'm sure, been taking detailed notes, and we will reach out and bring back an alternate draft, as well as I'd like to highlight that there is an operational requirement for submission as part of the MOU, and we will strengthen the word within that section as well. So we will bring a modified report back.
Great, thank you. Okay. So with that, nothing under emergency protective services, nothing under correspondence. Councillor Wilson did alert me, though, that under other business, she did want to respond to the first item on our agenda, which was the report from the Integrity Commissioner. So over to you, Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you, and I will be addressing all of council here and the public. As a councillor, I recognize that I have to be very cognizant of the impact of my words on all members of the public. It was not my intention to cause any personal hurt or harm. I regret any offense that was taken and sincerely apologize to this individual. Thank you.
Thank you. I should note that the report from the Integrity Commissioner is one where all personal details of the complainant are to be kept confidential. So the report doesn't name the individual. There's a redacted version of the report. Of course, the Integrity Commissioner is quite aware of the individual, but the report that comes redacts all that information for the public. So Ms. Wilson is obviously unable to name the member of the complainant who brought forward the complaint, but we are making every effort to ensure that person's confidentiality. It's at their discretion should they wish to make the report public. But all we can do this evening is speak in generalities. But thank you, Councillor Wilson, for your statement. It is appreciated and duly noted. I'll move on. Notice of motions. Any notice of motions, colleagues? Seeing none. Anything else from members of the public or media? We're good? Okay, then we'll go to close the meeting, and that is the confirmation bylaw. This is the standard language, colleagues, that bylaw 3923 to confirm proceedings of council at its special meeting held on March 29, 2023 be adopted and passed. Mover and seconder, please. Thank you. Councillor Strachan and Wilson. I'll call the question. All in favor, please. Good. And then finally, motion to adjourn. Colleagues over here, Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sullivan, mover, the motion to adjourn at 7:49 is moved and seconded, and I'll call the vote. All in favor?